You ever have a moment that splits your life clean in two? For me, it wasn't the divorce. Wasn't even the arrest. No, it was that text message. For smug lines from a woman who used to say she loved me. Stay away from my children. The judge has awarded me full custody. You lost. Amanda. For lines. No punctuation. Just cold, triumphant contempt. Sent from a woman who weaponized motherhood and used the system like a scalpel to carve me out of my own kids' lives. And what did I do? What was my big crime? I loved them. All of them. Too much, maybe. Too completely. Enough to give up everything for Amanda. Enough to believe her when she cried about how her ex had been the monster. Enough to raise her son as my own, even when she swore his biological father was out of the picture forever. I should have known better. She started changing a year into the marriage. Subtle at first. She started locking her phone. Started staying late for meetings that somehow always landed on weekends. She started keeping secrets and then started planning them on me. It was the night the cops showed up that everything broke open. False accusations. Fabricated injuries. A single tear on her cheek, and I was in handcuffs before I could ask what I'd supposedly done. I spent 6 months fighting those charges. Lost my job. Lost the house. Couldn't even see my kids, all thanks to a temporary protective order she finagled by crying in front of a sleepy judge on a Friday afternoon. Every court date, every lawyer call, every receipt I had to dig up from 5 years ago to prove I wasn't the man she claimed I was, all of it was a war of attrition. And I fought it tooth and nail. So when I got the message saying the charges were dropped, finally dropped, and then immediately got that knife twist follow-up from Amanda, I didn't respond with rage. I responded with clarity. I typed 4 words. Open the Doorbell app. And I waited. See, what Amanda didn't know, what the judge didn't know, was that my name was still on the house deed. My attorney had warned me not to push it during the trial. Play the long game, he said. Document everything. So I did. She'd installed a video doorbell a year earlier, one I paid for. And I never removed my admin access. That little camera had been recording for weeks. Motion activated. Night vision. Audio enabled. And on Tuesday night at 11:38 p.m., when her girls' night turned into her lover stumbling up to our front door, reeking of vodka and slurring her name, that camera caught everything. His pants halfway undone. Her giggle as she opened the door. The way they stumbled into the house, knocking over the stroller we used to push our daughter in. The real kicker? My son, the one I raised as my own, opened the bedroom door at just the wrong moment, bleary-eyed and scared, while Uncle Brent swore and slammed it shut. That's the moment I sent the message. Then I called my lawyer. He didn't even hesitate. Time to burn the whole thing down, he said. 8 hours later, Amanda had 17 missed calls on her phone. Her lawyer. Her new boyfriend. The school. Child services. Her mother, screaming over the voicemail, "What have you done?" The court decision is being overturned. And me? I sat in my car across from the courthouse, sipping burnt coffee, watching the sunrise, and finally, feeling the scales start to tip back where they belonged. When Amanda realized what I meant by "open the doorbell" app, I imagine her grin faltered. Maybe she thought it was a bluff. She always thought she was the smartest person in the room, until she wasn't. My lawyer, Marcus Grant, a pit bull in polished shoes, had already filed an emergency motion before the ink dried on the custody decision. It included timestamps, audio, video stills, a USB drive full of hard truths. You can lie in court, but cameras? Cameras don't lie. And suddenly, the woman who had painted herself as a saint, the poor, heartbroken mother protecting her babies from the big, bad husband, was just another messy headline waiting to happen. Child endangerment. Perjury. Visitation interference. The family court judge called an emergency review hearing within 24 hours. Amanda's attorney tried to delay. Denied knowledge. Claimed the footage was taken out of context. But it was hard to claim context when the timestamp showed Brent stumbling into the hallway drunk, cursing at my son to go the F*** back to sleep, while Amanda laughed in the background. She wasn't even ashamed. She was relieved that I had seen her screw up. That's the kind of narcissist she was. If she couldn't win clean, she wanted to win dirty. And if she couldn't win at all, she wanted to watch everything burn. Amanda tried calling me 17 times, to be exact. Texted me with a tone that shifted from rage to panic to pleading like a pendulum with a broken string. You blindsided me. You always were vindictive. We can work this out for the kids. Don't do this to me. To you? Lady, you did it to yourself. I just handed you the mirror. Her mother was the loudest of them all, screaming on speakerphone at my lawyer's office, crying about how this would ruin Amanda's future, how it was just one mistake. One mistake. Right. Let's rewind the tape. Her mistake was a pattern. It was lying to the court. It was forging emails. It was coaching our daughter to say I scared her, when all I ever did was tuck her in at night and sing off-key lullabies that made her giggle. Her mistake was weaponizing trust. Mine was giving it. But not anymore. The judge reinstated my visitation, temporarily, pending full custody review. It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the dam. And once cracks form, pressure does the rest. Amanda walked out of that courthouse with her sunglasses on, her jaw clenched like she was biting a bullet. I didn't look at her. Not once. But I saw her reflection in the glass as she passed. She was afraid, and fear looks good on her. Outside, I stood under a cold February sky, waiting for my son and daughter to walk out the courthouse doors. The moment I saw them, my son with that cautious look in his eyes, my daughter with her arms already outstretched, I felt something deep in my chest click back into place. She hadn't broken me. She'd sharpened me. They ran into my arms like I was home. And maybe I was. Maybe for the first time in a long time, I was finally home, not in a place, but in purpose. Marcus clapped me on the back. Now we build. I nodded, my voice calm. No, now we reclaim. Amanda always had a gift. Not for motherhood, not for loyalty, but for illusion. She could wear grace like a designer coat. At school functions, she floated between PTA moms like she belonged on a magazine cover. Instagram perfect lunches. Hashtags about #blessed mornings. Polished smiles over wine spritzers with the other suburban wives. You'd think she walked on petals and spoke in Pinterest quotes. What none of them saw, and what I had started documenting, piece by meticulous piece, was how that porcelain charm cracked the moment she thought no one was watching. It started with the texts. Marcus pulled Amanda's digital footprint like thread from a sweater. He didn't even break a sweat. Subpoenaed messages between her and her business mentor, aka Brent, showed more than infidelity. They showed financial fraud. She'd been claiming expenses under our daughter's education fund to pay for hotel rooms, spa visits, and business development meetings that apparently required champagne and lingerie. Worse, she was writing it off on my tax ID. That detail, that was a weapon. Not in a courtroom, not yet, but in public. You see, Amanda didn't just crave money. She craved status, reputation, that carefully built throne of brunch invitations and charity event photos. Her social image was her currency, so I made sure the cracks showed. One anonymous tip to the school board's community fund she chaired. One email, forwarded by mistake, to the mother of her closest friend, showing line item receipts from a networking dinner that just happened to include a double order of oysters, room service, and a charge from the rooftop bar of a 5-star hotel in the city. A whisper here, a screenshot there. I wasn't interested in blasting her name across the internet. No, this wasn't about spectacle. It was about erosion. The little erosion that eats away at a mask until it splits down the middle. Amanda's friends stopped commenting on her posts. Then they stopped liking them. Then the sorry, can't make it texts started rolling in for her birthday brunch. And when she tried to tag her friends in a girls' night out selfie, one of them messaged her publicly and asked her not to include her in anything misleading. No one said it outright. That's how polite society handles betrayal. They just iced her, quiet, clinical, absolute. It was beautiful. The same woman who had painted me as unstable, as dangerous, as disposable, now found herself walking into coffee shops where conversations stopped and eyes didn't meet hers. She messaged me once more. What do you want from me? My answer? Nothing. Not anymore. She took everything she could. My reputation. My children. My peace. But the moment she tried to profit from the lie, that's when I decided she didn't get to walk away clean. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for correction. For balance. For the kind of quiet justice that doesn't scream, it whispers. And right now, that whisper is spreading through every room Amanda used to think she ruled. 3 days after her social life started unraveling, Amanda did what Amanda always does when things start slipping out of her manicured hands. She lied. She called me. Her voice was syrup. Hey, I think maybe we need to talk. For the kids. For the kids. Those 3 words. Always her shield. Her excuse. Her favorite bargaining chip. I let her talk. I let her suggest meeting in public, somewhere neutral. I let her pretend like this was about shared parenting and healthy communication. She picked a cafe downtown, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the overpriced macchiatos that she used to brag about drinking in her element. She showed up looking the part, trench coat, oversized sunglasses, that I haven't slept in 2 days, gloss barely masked with makeup. But her hands? Her hands gave her away. She fidgeted, couldn't keep them still. When I walked in, I didn't sit. I stood at the edge of the table and handed her a manila envelope. "What's this?" she asked, forcing a laugh. "Evidence," I said flatly. "For the Department of Revenue." She flipped it open. Inside? Itemized proof of tax fraud. Screenshots. Cross-referenced receipts. A spreadsheet that tied her credit card to charges listed under our daughter's education trust account. Room service. Lingerie. An Uber drop-off at Brent's apartment. Twice on the same night she told the court she was at home with the flu. Her face went white. "You wouldn't." "Already did." That's when she dropped the mask. No more sweet co-parenting tone. No more pretending this was mutual. "You're going to ruin everything. You did that." "I'm just documenting." She stood, slammed the folder shut, and hissed, "You're pathetic." And I just smiled. "Funny. That's what your boyfriend said when you passed out on the hotel balcony and he had to call room service for help." Her jaw clenched. Because she knew. The camera on that balcony? Motion activated. Night vision. And the night she got drunk and started sobbing about how her ex-husband was never supposed to fight back, guess who still had access to the security feed? I never said a word to Brent. I didn't have to. I let Amanda be her own wrecking ball. That night, my lawyer filed a motion for full custody. This time I was the petitioner. And we didn't just request custody. We requested an audit. A restraining order. Mandatory therapy. A forensic financial review of every account she'd touched in the last 3 years. She tried to get ahead of it, called in favors, begged the judge for compassion, told the court that I was emotionally abusive. But the video doesn't lie. The receipts don't lie. And by then, neither did her silence. The judge had seen enough. Amanda was ordered to comply with a financial investigation. She lost interim custody. The kids came home with me that night. And when she walked out of the courtroom, her mother didn't meet her eyes. Her father never showed. And Brent? Brent had already blocked her. I didn't cry the day I got my kids back. I thought I would. You imagine that moment for so long, it becomes a fantasy. A movie scene. Swelling music. Tears. Hugs. A slow-motion reunion. But real life? It doesn't slow down for anyone. My son walked into the house with his backpack slung over one shoulder, looking older than he should have, like he'd aged in the war Amanda called home. He scanned the living room like he didn't recognize it, like he didn't trust it was real. My daughter? She ran straight to the couch, curled up in her favorite blanket, and whispered, "Can we just stay here?" That's when it hit me. What Amanda had taken wasn't just time. It was peace. They didn't need toys or speeches or ice cream celebrations. They needed quiet. They needed consistency. They needed someone to show up and stay. So I did. I sat on the floor with them and watched cartoons. I reheated chicken nuggets. I put up blackout curtains in their rooms because Amanda never let them sleep with the lights off, said it made them soft. That first night, my son actually slept. No tossing. No crying. Just stillness. And me? I sat in the hallway, outside their doors, drinking cold coffee and staring at the ceiling, reminding myself, they're here. They're safe. You didn't lose them. Amanda didn't call that night. She didn't text the next day either. What could she say? The facade was crumbling faster than she could patch it. Her business mentor had ghosted her. Her financial records were being combed through by 2 separate agencies. Her social circle had closed its doors. Her mother had stopped answering her calls. Marcus said she even tried to shift blame in court, suggesting her mother had pressured her into lying. I wasn't surprised. Amanda had never taken accountability in her life. She was the kind of person who lit the fire and cried about the smoke. But I had a different priority now. I started building again, not just in my life, but for my kids. School drop-offs, dentist appointments, karate lessons, a new bedtime routine that didn't include shouting or guilt or gaslighting. My daughter laughed for the first time in months. That high-pitched, I squinted kind of laugh that kids only make when they forget pain exists. And my son? He started opening up. Little things at first. One night he looked up from his cereal and asked, "Are we going back to Mom's?" I set the spoon down, met his eyes. "Not unless you want to." He didn't even blink. Good. That word, good, almost broke me. Because I had spent months believing I had failed them. That the court had failed them. That maybe I deserved to be erased because I wasn't enough. But that one word told me I'd been enough all along. I just had to fight for it. Amanda finally reached out. Not to apologize. Not to make peace. To negotiate. It came through email, the modern coward's confession booth. The subject line. Can we talk? For real this time? I opened it at 6 a.m., sitting in silence, sipping coffee while the kids still slept. I've had time to reflect. I know mistakes were made on both sides. Maybe we got caught up in court stuff and forgot what really matters, the children. I'm willing to put the past behind us if you're ready to co-parent like adults. Let's meet halfway. Meet halfway. That was Amanda's go-to move. When she felt power slipping, she'd dangle fake reconciliation like bait. I didn't respond. Later that day, she tried calling. I didn't answer. So she did what manipulators always do when charm fails, she turned up the heat. At 4 p.m., my lawyer got an email from hers, alleging that I refused to cooperate with parenting time and that the kids expressed discomfort being in my home. Funny. The only thing my kids expressed was relief. Amanda thought she could reframe reality like it was another curated Instagram post, crop out the mess, filter the truth, caption it with something inspirational. But the timeline didn't lie. She was already under investigation for misusing funds from our daughter's education account, charges pending. Her ex-lover Brent had been subpoenaed and refused to testify on her behalf. CPS was conducting follow-ups. And my security footage was admissible now, every second of it. So were allegations? They evaporated like steam on a mirror. Still, she kept trying. 1 week later, she showed up at my front door unannounced. Lipstick on. Hair curled. Dressed like she thought she could still play the role of concerned mother. She rang the bell. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me. I just want to talk, she said, eyes wide like she was auditioning for sympathy. You're not welcome here. Her nostrils flared. I'm still their mother. No, I said. You're their biological parent. Being a mother takes more than DNA. That landed. She blinked like I'd slapped her. You think you've won, she spat. No, I said, calm as steel. I survived. You think this was a game. I was fighting for my kids' lives while you were screwing someone in a hotel room and charging it to their college fund. She stepped back. The facade was cracking again. I saw it in the way her mouth twitched. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. You'll regret making me your enemy. I didn't smile. I just pointed at the Ring camera overhead. Already recorded. That night, she emailed again, this time. A long, rambling apology that somehow never used the words sorry, wrong, or responsibility. Just a string of vague regrets and not-so-subtle bartering attempts. Marcus called me after reading it. You want me to respond? He asked. No, I said. Let her talk. The more she says, the deeper she digs. Because the thing about people like Amanda? They think they're running the show even when the curtain's already fallen. And me? I was done performing. Amanda always thrived in rooms where no one knew the full story. That's where her charm worked best. A little tragedy in her eyes, a little flair in her voice, the ability to twist any tale, so she always came out the victim. But the thing about lies? They don't age well. Especially not when they're surrounded by receipts. Her job was the first to go. The school board she volunteered with asked for her resignation. Politely, of course, they always are. But word had spread. Not the sensational kind. Not the gossip, the truth. Quiet. Verified. Passed from one reliable mouth to another. I didn't have to make calls. I didn't send anything. All I had to do was stop protecting her. That was enough. I found out from one of the other parents. Amanda had shown up to a school fundraiser trying to smile through the whispers. She stayed for 13 minutes. Then left, head down, shoulders tight. Like she knew. After that, her social life collapsed like a house of cards in a thunderstorm. Her closest friends blocked her. No more invites, no more brunches, no more schoolgate gossip. Just silence. I never gloated. Never rubbed it in. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about gravity. You spend long enough throwing stones, eventually one hits you in the teeth. And Amanda was choking on hers. But she still had one card left. Her parents. Nancy and Greg were old money without the money, people who clung to appearances like life preservers. They had bailed Amanda out more times than I could count. The first apartment, the loans that were never repaid, the endless lies they swallowed because their daughter was going through something. Now they were facing something else, a letter from the IRS. The forensic audit Marcus triggered had revealed Amanda had been filtering unreported income through one of their shell accounts. Charity work she never reported. Consulting fees from shady clients. Her mother's name was on the tax form. It was enough to drag them into the mud with her. And that's when Amanda finally snapped. She left me a voicemail. 2 minutes long. Barely coherent. Screaming. Crying. Swearing. Begging. Back to rage. Then back to begging. You're destroying my life? Do you get that? You're ruining everything. The kids, my parents, my future. I made some mistakes, okay? But I loved you. That last part? That was the most dishonest sentence she'd ever spoken. Because Amanda didn't love people. She loved control. And the minute she couldn't control me, couldn't control the narrative, she lost her identity. I sent the voicemail to Marcus. He didn't even flinch. We can use it, he said. Shows instability. Erratic behavior. I nodded. Let's file. So we did. Filed for sole custody. Permanent. And with her job gone, her reputation in flames, her support network severed, Amanda finally understood. This wasn't a battle anymore. It was a reckoning. Courtrooms have a strange silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that hums under your skin. Like the moment right before a storm hits, when even the wind holds its breath. That's how it felt when I walked into the custody hearing. Amanda was already there, seated next to her new attorney. Not the one she used for the first round, that one had dropped her after discovering the financial evidence. This one looked fresh out of law school, all sharp corners and shaky hands. She looked thinner, hollow, makeup trying to cover what stress had carved into her face. But her posture? Still upright. Still pretending she had control. Me? I didn't need to pretend anything. I just sat, hands clasped, waiting. The judge, same one from our original case, entered the courtroom and didn't waste time. The docket was long, and our case was already making waves. Marcus stood and presented our motion, sole custody, with supervised visitation pending psychological review. He laid it out clean. No drama. Just facts. Video footage of Amanda's drunk lover entering the home with my children asleep inside. Financial records showing funds diverted from the kids' education account into hotel rooms and shopping sprees. Emails and text referencing drug use and manipulation. The burner phone, the forged tax forms, the failed CPS check-ins. Voicemail recordings of Amanda's meltdowns. Every piece of evidence we showed was dated, timestamped, verified, and unimpeachable. Amanda's lawyer tried to object. Claimed the material was collected unethically. The judge shut it down. These items were acquired legally through subpoenas and open surveillance on property still shared at the time, the judge said. And then Amanda took the stand. She tried. I'll give her that. Tried to conjure the same waterworks she used to pour on command. Spoke in soft tones. Talked about mistakes, about trauma, about being overwhelmed as a single mother. But every word felt staged. Every tear dried too quickly. Then Marcus rose. His cross-examination was quiet, surgical. No raised voice, no grandstanding. Just truth. And Amanda, unraveling under it. He walked her through every lie, every contradiction. Asked her why the children's college fund paid for a spa weekend. Asked why Brent was registered as an emergency contact without my knowledge. Asked if she remembered the night my daughter was left alone during a business dinner, or the weekend my son called 911 because Amanda passed out from exhaustion. She stumbled, lied, tried to deflect. But you can't argue with math, or timestamps, or the face of a child describing fear on camera to a CPS worker. When it was over, the judge didn't even call a recess. He adjusted his glasses, looked down at the file, then looked at Amanda. Mrs. Langford, your conduct has shown a clear disregard for the safety, financial well-being, and emotional development of your children. Effective immediately, full custody is awarded to Mr. Langford. Supervised visitation will be reviewed following psychiatric evaluation and a clean 90-day compliance record. Amanda didn't cry. She just stopped. Like a puppet whose strings had finally been cut. I didn't look at her when I stood. I looked at my lawyer, at the court officer, at the bailiff, and when I turned, I saw my kids through the window of the waiting room. They were coloring, laughing. They didn't even know what had just changed. But they would feel it soon. Peace doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it walks in quietly, sits down, and stays. After the custody ruling, Amanda vanished. Not literally. She was still in town, still driving the leased SUV, still trying to post carefully curated snapshots online, as if a new candle in her living room could erase the court transcripts. But socially? She disappeared. The text stopped coming. No more, let's talk. No more fake apologies. Even her parents went quiet. That silence? It wasn't peace. It was the sound of a woman bleeding status, circling a drain she swore she'd never fall into. I thought that was it, that we were done. Then came the knock at my door. I opened it, expecting a neighbor or maybe Marcus with paperwork. Instead, I found Amanda's mother, Nancy, wearing oversized sunglasses and an expression I hadn't seen in a long time, not anger, not arrogance, shame. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. You lost? I asked flatly. She took off the glasses. Her eyes were puffy. I need to talk, she said. I raised an eyebrow. To me. She nodded, hesitating. You were right. About all of it. Now, let me be clear. I wasn't interested in absolution. Not from her. This was the same woman who used to make snide comments about my job, who once told Amanda I was lucky she settled for you. But something about her face, something cracked, made me stay. So I listened. Nancy told me the whole thing. How Amanda had forged her signature on tax documents. How Amanda had borrowed nearly $18,000 over the last year in cash, claiming it was for the kids, only for it to vanish into luxury goods and late-night hotel bills. How she'd stolen from them. I defended her, Nancy said. Every time. I thought I was protecting her from you. From the world. But I wasn't. I was enabling a sociopath. She handed me a flash drive. What's this? Bank records. Communications. Emails. Everything she's done to us. My husband's leaving me over it, by the way. Said he's tired of living in denial. And I don't blame him. I looked her dead in the eye. Why are you giving me this? Because you're the only one left with anything close to integrity. And I want you to protect those kids. From her. She stepped back, eyes glassy. Don't thank me. I'm 30 years too late for redemption. Then she turned and walked away. That night, I gave the flash drive to Marcus. We stayed up combing through the files, dozens of emails Amanda had sent, mocking both her parents, bragging about how easy it is to manipulate people who need to believe you're still their little girl. She stole more than money. She stole trust. From everyone. Marcus looked at me after an hour of silence and said, You realize this could escalate. Financial fraud, wire fraud, elder abuse. This isn't just a custody issue anymore. I nodded. I know. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about making sure Amanda could never again weaponize her charm, her lies, or her bloodline against the people she claimed to love. She set fire to everyone who ever protected her. Now, she was out of kindling. Marcus called me at 9:13 a.m. sharp. She's being investigated. Federal level. I didn't say anything. I just stared out the window, watching my daughter eat cereal and hum to herself, her hair a tangled mess of childhood and safety. They're pulling her tax records, Marcus continued. Nancy gave them full cooperation. Signed affidavits. Your ex's spending trail is a gold mine of evidence. And what happens now? I asked. Now. Marcus exhaled slowly. Now we stop playing defense. 2 days later, Amanda was served. A formal notice from the IRS. A parallel inquiry opened by the state's Department of Revenue. The charges on the table weren't just petty fraud. This was felony level. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. Child trust misappropriation. And the kicker? Elder exploitation. That one burned the hardest because Nancy, for all her icy hauteur and late-in-life awakening, had finally exposed Amanda's deepest betrayal, draining her own parents' retirement accounts under the guise of medical expenses for the kids. Amanda was officially out of lifelines. The news trickled out like blood from a nicked artery. A small headline in a local paper. Former charity liaison under financial investigation. Then a blog post. Then a whisper campaign among the private school circles. And finally, the knock that echoed through the remains of Amanda's glass house. Her landlord. Eviction notice. Failure to pay rent 3 months in a row. The same luxury apartment she bragged about on Instagram with captions like manifestation in marble gone. She didn't call me. She didn't message. But I heard from her old friend Julia, one of the last people who hadn't blocked her. Julia had called me once before, quietly, privately, after the court ruling. She hadn't believed the rumors at first, but truth has gravity. And Amanda's mask had finally cracked deep enough to expose the rot beneath. She's not okay, Julia said on the phone. She's unraveling. She showed up at my house at 2 a.m. drunk, screaming about how none of it's fair, that you turned everyone against her. I didn't respond. Just let the silence hang. Julia hesitated, then asked, Did she really do all that stuff? To the kids. She did worse, I said. She used them. Silence. Then, good. I hope she burns. I kept things quiet for the kids. They didn't need to know what was happening behind the scenes, not yet. All they needed to know was that they were safe, that they'd never be told to lie again, never be made to feel like their fear was just drama. At bedtime, my daughter asked if she could start calling me Dad instead of Daddy. My son started locking his bedroom door again, but this time, not out of fear, out of habit, a habit we were slowly replacing with trust. Amanda's voice was just an echo now, a name that used to carry weight, now nothing more than a cautionary tale in a county case file. I didn't find out from Marcus, didn't get an alert from the court system or some dramatic phone call. I found out Amanda had been arrested from a Google notification. There it was, plain, inevitable, cold as a body in a drawer. Amanda Langford arrested in multi-count fraud case. Faces charges of wire fraud, tax evasion, and financial exploitation. Custody of minor children previously stripped by court. Her mugshot sat beneath the headline. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Eyes red-rimmed but defiant, like she still couldn't quite believe the world had stopped bending for her. But it had. It bent for a while. Twisted itself into knots to excuse her. To believe her lies. But even gravity has limits. And Amanda? She'd spent every ounce of goodwill she had trying to burn me at the stake. Now she was the one in shackles. The article wasn't long. Just enough to catch fire in the local sphere. Her face started circulating in WhatsApp groups. Mom forums. Even one of those clickbait Facebook pages that says things like, your child's school lunch lady might be a felon. Find out here. Her name was on lips it didn't belong to. And for once, none of the coverage was filtered through her voice. No PR rep, no tear-stained statements. Just the raw record of the wreckage she caused. Marcus called later that morning. Thought you'd want to know, he said. I do, I replied. I already knew. There was a pause, then something I hadn't heard from Marcus much pride. You played this perfectly, he said. No theatrics. Just truth. Documented. Delivered. And now? The system's actually working. I didn't say anything. Because deep down, I knew better than to believe in happy endings. But I did believe in endings that meant something. Amanda was out on bond by the next day, of course. Money talks. But not loud enough anymore. Not when it's dirty. Not when her own mother was lined up to testify. The trial date was set. But in the court of public opinion, verdict already came in. I was picking up my daughter from school when I overheard one of the moms talking. She's the one, right? That woman who stole from her own kid's account? Can you imagine? My daughter tugged my sleeve. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Sure. I smiled, kneeling beside her. Anything you want. We walked to the car. I didn't look back. And Amanda? She was stuck exactly where she put herself, in a world where every mirror shows the real her now. Not the filtered version. Not the curated illusion. Just a woman who thought consequences were for other people. Courtrooms have a smell. Paper. Polished wood. Stress. And something else, something harder to name. Maybe it's the sin of truth just waiting to be spoken. Amanda's trial began on a rainy Monday morning, the kind of day that makes you feel like something's being washed clean. The courtroom was full, reporters, parents from our kids' school, even Nancy, sitting in the back row in a suit that looked borrowed, maybe for dignity she couldn't quite afford anymore. Amanda sat at the defense table with her third lawyer. Her face was drawn, makeup carefully applied but losing the battle against reality. She wore navy blue, the not guilty color, someone once told me. The charges were read out loud. Wire fraud, tax evasion, trust fund misappropriation, intentional falsification of documents, fraudulent use of a minor's identity. They even tacked on obstruction, thanks to her multiple attempts to clarify paperwork mid-investigation. But the one that mattered to me? Neglect. That was the count that dealt with what she did to her children, what she didn't do for them, and how she used them as human shields in her war against me. They called witness after witness. Her old accountant, visibly nervous. A family friend who finally stopped defending her. Even Brent, slimy, shallow Brent, who admitted to everything under oath in exchange for immunity. Then they called me. I took the stand. They swore me in. I spoke clearly. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't get angry. I just laid it out, one fact at a time. How she manipulated the court system to push me out. How she lied to the judge, to the kids, to everyone who trusted her. How she took money from an account meant to secure our daughter's future and spent it on hotel rooms and spa treatments. How did this impact your relationship with your children, Mr. Langford? The prosecutor asked. I swallowed. For a long time, I said, I thought I had lost them. Not just legally, emotionally. I thought they were being turned against me, that maybe she'd erased me from their lives. And did she? I shook my head. No, because you can't erase someone who shows up every single time. Eventually, even a child knows the difference between love and performance. The prosecutor nodded. What do you want the court to understand about Amanda Langford? I looked over at her, just for a second, and I said, she didn't just betray me. She betrayed the two people she swore to protect above all else. And I'll carry that weight for the rest of my life. So will they. I stepped down, didn't look back again. Amanda didn't speak. Her lawyer advised against it, because nothing she said now could be trusted. And even the lies were starting to sound like reruns. The jury went into deliberation. 3 hours later, they came back. Guilty. On 5 of the 6 charges, including the one that mattered most to me. The judge denied leniency. Sentencing would come in 30 days. But the bail was revoked immediately. Amanda was cuffed at the defense table. No music. No drama. Just a metal click, and a woman finally stripped of the illusion she'd built her entire life around. She looked up at me, but there was nothing left to say. Court was quieter than usual that morning. No cameras. No reporters this time. Just the echo of footfalls and the rustle of paperwork as the people who survived her damage came to hear the final tally. Amanda was brought in wearing beige jail-issue clothes, a far cry from the designer coats and courtroom drama dresses she used to strut around in. Her hair, usually styled to perfection, hung limp and tied back. No mascara. No mask. Just Amanda. The version no one had seen until now, stripped of status, stripped of spin. Nancy sat 2 rows behind me. No jewelry. Just tissues and a stare fixed hard on the table in front of her. Amanda didn't look at me when they brought her in. She looked at the judge, then at the floor. Like she finally understood this wasn't a performance anymore. The judge didn't drag it out. He recited the charges like reading off a ledger. No emotion. Wire fraud. Guilty. Tax evasion. Guilty. Misuse of minors' trust. Guilty. Elder exploitation. Guilty. Neglect of a dependent minor. Guilty. Obstruction was the only one she dodged. Small mercy didn't matter. Her sentence, 3 years in prison. No parole before 24 months. Restitution required. Full surrender of remaining financial assets. Supervised visitation suspended until psychological rehab and full repayment of damages. The court clerk asked if she had anything to say before sentencing. She stood. Her voice cracked. I know I made mistakes. That was all she managed before the judge cut her off. Ms. Langford, this isn't the time for theatrics. This court gave you chances. What you did wasn't a mistake, it was malice. Calculated, repeated, and deeply harmful. The time for apologies passed the day you put your own reflection above your children's future. Her knees buckled slightly as they cuffed her again. She didn't cry. There was nothing left to cry with. Outside the courthouse, the air was still. I stood on the steps and watched the last squad car pull away, Amanda inside. It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like relief. And it felt like permission, not to celebrate, but to begin. Really begin. Free of the anchors she tried to wrap around my neck. When I got home, my daughter was drawing pictures at the kitchen table. She looked up. Did the judge say she can come back? No, I said gently. Not for a while. She nodded and went back to coloring. And just like that, we moved forward. No screaming. No chaos. Just crayons and breakfast and quiet.